we are going to go to our next story here about Hill Harper and Rashida Tlaib. So if you look at Hill Harper's picture, let me go ahead and pull this up. I was like, I know this guy. I know this guy from somewhere. And then it hit me. Hill Harper was on CSI New York. That's where I remember him from. He's an actor. So that's what we're talking about now, because apparently Hill Harper is also running for office. And he revealed something recently that I think made a lot of people pause. So apparently this was a private conversation that he did not want to turn public, but he felt the need to go there. Let's see what Hill Harper said. He said, make this bigger. I didn't intend for a private phone call to turn public, but now that it has, here's the truth. One of AIPAC's biggest donors offered me $20 million if I dropped out of the U.S. Senate race to run against Rashida Tlaib. I said, no, I won't be bossed, bullied, or bought. So for those who are not aware, and I'll show you in just a second, Hill Harper is apparently, he is running for office. He's running for the U.S. Senate. So AIPAC, again, we've talked about them a couple times on this show about how they lobby in D.C. They will particularly try to recruit other candidates to basically challenge candidates that they feel are not 100% pro-Israel. So after Rashida Tlaib has been censored, also to go along with that, Rashida Tlaib is Palestinian. So she's one of their main targets, but she's not the only one. They're actually going after every single member of the squad. I think if you look at that list, we'll get to it in just a second. The list of the people who have called for a ceasefire, they're going after all of these people. They have ads out against Jamal Bowman right now already. They're going after one after another, right? So again, this is why corporate money should not be involved in electoral politics. You see what they're able to do behind the scenes. So it's not just Rashida Tlaib. I just want to let you know that. But Hill Harper is one of the candidates that is coming forward and telling people that AIPAC tried to bribe him basically to get him to drop out of the U.S. Senate race and instead primary challenge Rashida Tlaib. He is both also from Detroit, like Rashida. I'll get to that article in just a second. He went on to say, yes, telling the truth here will put a target on my back. But if we all come together, we can win. So it says Hill Harper, U.S. Senate 2024, believe in better. Now, we'll come back to his platform in just a second. But I want to get to this article here about Hill Harper's claim. This is from Politico. Listen to this. Very interesting, folks. Donor allegedly offered $20 million to recruit a Tlaib primary challenger. Whew. Oh boy. They got $20 million just to throw around. A Michigan businessman called Democratic Senate candidate Hill Harper to offer $20 million in campaign contributions if he agreed to drop out and instead mount a primary challenge to Representative Rashida Tlaib, according to a source with direct knowledge of the call. The source added that Harper declined the alleged October 16th offer from donor Lyndon Nelson, which would have split the campaign money between $10 million in bundled contributions directly to Harper's campaign and $10 million in independent expenditures. Harper declined to comment on the record about the alleged call from Nelson, a Michigan entrepreneur and past donor to candidates in both parties, but he recounted the call in the same terms as the source in a post on X after the story's publication. But the episode illustrates the intensity of the blowback towards Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, in response to her outspoken criticism of the Israeli government in voting to censure Tlaib earlier this month after she invoked a pro-Palestinian slogan that's widely seen as calling for the eradication of Israel, and pro-Israel Democrats are still searching for a candidate to primary her. Politico reached Nelson briefly to seek comment on the alleged call to Harper, but he ended the call after a few seconds and did not respond to subsequent calls, texts, and emails seeking a comment. So that right there to me says you're probably guilty. Okay. That right there to me says Lyndon is probably guilty. Just a hunch there. Three of Tlaib's fellow progressive critics of the Israeli government policy, Summer Lee, Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, are facing their own Democratic challengers who are touting their more pro-Israel rhetoric and voting records. Harper, an actor and business owner, has also positioned himself as a progressive in the primary to succeed retiring Senator Debbie Stabenow. But he struggled to gain traction as Senate rival Representative Alyssa Slotkin leads in polling and fundraising. Harper also might not have proven the most ideal recruit to challenge Tlaib with the more pro-Israel government approach. Harper called for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, largely echoing the ceasefire support from a few dozen congressional Democratic progressives. He did so on November 10th, well after the alleged call from Nelson. The answers to ensure long-term peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians are neither simple nor pain-free. But one truth stands firm. Violence against defenseless children, trapped and frightened, is abhorrent regardless of who is behind it. Harper wrote in a statement calling for the ceasefire earlier this month. In addition, Harper's Detroit residence is located in Representative Shri Tander's district, not in Tlaib's. She has represented her district, which includes Dearborn and its large Arab American population, since 2019. So remember what we talked about recently about how Joe Biden is losing support from the Arab community. One of the things I mentioned is that the largest Arab population in the United States is in Michigan, particularly in Rashida Tlaib's district. So she has a very strong base in her district, from what I've understand from people that I've spoken to that live in that area. And this is why I've said before, this would be a really good push for Rashida Tlaib to exit the Democratic Party and just run as an independent. You already have the base of support from your community. I don't think they would choose not to vote for you just because you're an independent and not a Democrat anymore. I don't think that really matters much. It's like people are just Democrat in name only nowadays anyway. So my suggestion to Rashida Tlaib is to leave the Democratic Party. That's my suggestion to all the members of the squad. If they have a strong base back at home, exit the Democratic Party. They can do this as a group and run as independents. If their base is strong, like Rashida's base is strong, they will still continue to win. That's just how I look at it. To me, it doesn't make sense to stay in a party where 22 of the members of that party also voted to censure you. And it just so happens that all 22 of those members of the Democratic Party that voted in favor of censoring Rashida Tlaib also take donations from AIPAC. So you see, to me, like, I don't want to be somewhere where I'm not wanted. I don't want to be in a party that does not want me there. So AIPAC is now actively trying to primary challenge all of those candidates to get them out of the way. And let's be real, they got the money to do it if they're offering him $20 million. It goes on to say, despite facing multiple past Democratic challengers, she's handily won her primary election since then. A Tlaib spokesperson declined to comment on the alleged Nelson Harper call. Tlaib has called for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, a position that's slowly amassing more Democratic support as casualties increase from the Israel-Hamas war. As the Democratic Party confronts deep divisions over Israel that were exacerbated by the U.S. allies' military response to Hamas, progressive incumbents are seeking help from party leaders to quell pro-Israel Democrats' interest in primary challenges to lawmakers deemed insufficiently supportive of the war. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has already heeded that call by endorsing, that's Ilhan Omar's re-election. So I think we can all see what is happening here. And this is why I said before, I don't understand why they continue to remain in this party. There's also this piece here. AIPAC spokesperson Marshall Whitman said that the group was absolutely not involved in any way in this matter. Also, our records indicate that this individual has not contributed to AIPAC in over a decade. So that is in reference to this piece here where it says Nelson has also previously donated to a group seeking to unseat Tlaib and has a history of involvement with AIPAC, which has railed against her. He has donated to other Michigan Democrat candidates over the years, including Haley Stevens this cycle and Andy Levin in previous cycles, according to FEC records, as well as former Representative Mike Bishop. So AIPAC is saying, they're not involved, and that's not true. Are you going to believe them? I'm just like, yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Like you would say you were. It's not clear if the alleged donation offer would have violated any campaign finance laws had Harper accepted it. Saurav Ghosh, the director for federal reform at the Nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center, said that any potential coordination between a candidate and a donor floating that amount of financing would be illegal. It would be illegal for a wealthy donor and a person planning to run for office to essentially coordinate and line up $20 million in financing to support that person's candidacy. This would raise serious corruption concerns about the candidate being wholly within that one donor's pocket. But just because it's illegal doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? So I think we have to be aware of that. Now, Hill Harper, if you look at his platform, this is interesting. So if you go to his Twitter page, it says single dad to Pierce, union organizer, business owner, and Democratic Senate candidate to represent the great state of Michigan. I had no idea this guy was running for office until this story broke. So I feel like maybe his campaign is just not getting enough attention. But under priorities, it says climate justice in the filibuster, jobs and economic dignity, universal health care, which is interesting. Most people don't even want to talk about that anymore. It does not say where he stands on war, though, but he has, climate justice. But yeah, it's really interesting. It says he's a lawyer, union organizer, actor, and single father who owns a well-known coffee shop in Detroit. He's not a politician, but he's running for U.S. Senate anyway to ensure every single Michigander has economic security and real representation focused on the people, not lobbyists or wealthy donors. Yeah, I'm really surprised that more people don't know about that campaign. Like I said, I didn't know anything about it until the story was released the other day. But you see what they're trying to do. They're already trying to primary people against them so far to the point where they're willing to bribe people. And I have no doubt that this hasn't happened before. This time they just got caught. Something to think about. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Didn't proofread my cryptic Rockfin speech to text. Okay, I will check that. Thank you for the super chat, Cool Blue. Hill Harper is a series regular on ABC's The Good Doctor, starring lead Freddie Highmore, and he is running for U.S. Senate from my home state, Michigan. Establishment wants Alyssa Slotkin to replace retiring Debbie Stabenow. Interesting. And thank you for this super chat, Cool Blue. 2020, Joe Biden carried Michigan by 154,000 votes. Wow, that's interesting. State's Arab population is estimated 210K. Sufficient shift of their 2024 vote away from D's can flip Michigan to the Republicans, which is exactly what we were trying to tell people, right? Joe Biden has to win Michigan in order to win. Go to some of the comments here in the chat. Ellen said, Sabby Sabs, he went to Harvard and knows Obama. You should interview him. I can try to interview him. I can try. What is this, Ruben? Did y'all know the Statue of Liberty is Lucifer? Liberty enlightening the world? It's androgynous. 7 spikes for color spectrum and chain on the foot accordingly. These people are actual Satanists. I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. Interesting. Interesting. Desert Mantis says the U.S. is funding the teachers, government hospitals, and most other employees in Ukraine, but the U.S. won't fund our own homeless and Medicare. That's right. That's right. I jumped ahead on some of the comments here. Sorry about that. Nikki's World says Hill Harper is establishment. I don't know that much about him other than the fact that, like I said, he was on CSI. I knew that. Dwayne says Joe Biden doesn't have a snowball's chance of winning Michigan. Interesting. Scrooge McDuck says, I remember him from episodes of Married with Children. He was Al's protege. Oh, wow. You're going way back, Scrooge McDuck. You're going way back now. I'll have to check that out too.